Okay, on 38, it's asking us to solve the system of three equations. I'm going to do that using inverse matrices, is what it tells us to use. So I'm going to set up three different matrices. And my first matrix is going to be my lead coefficient matrix. And so I'm going to grab all of the numbers that are on the front of all of my variables here. So -4, there's an implied 1 right there in front of my y, and a 5 right there in front of my z. And then in my second equation, I don't have an x, so I'm going to use 0 as a placeholder. I've got a 4 in front of my y and a 5 in front of my z. And then on this one, be careful, those are all negative, so -2x, -2y, and -4 on z. Then my next matrix is going to be my variable matrix. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell me what way my answers are going to come out in my calculator. So when I see my calculator, it's going to come out with x and then y and then z in a matrix. All right, and then finally over here I'm going to have my constant matrix, and my constants for this one are -10, 6, and -2. So that's going to be these over here that do not have a variable with them. That's why we call them the constants. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one into A, and I'm going to put this one into B, and then to use an inverse matrix, I'm going to do A inverse B. So very important that we do it in that order when it comes to matrices. It makes a difference what order you put them in. Okay, so let me clear all of that out, and I'm going to go to the matrix menu, so second, and this little inverse button right here, matrix, so second matrix. And I'm going to go over to edit because I want to put something into my matrix. And underneath edit, I'm going to start by entering A, which is this one right here, and that is a 3 by 3 matrix. I have 3 rows and 3 columns. All right, so I'm going to put these in. So I'm going to put -4 and enter, and notice that your cursor goes across, so be careful as you put that in. 1 and 5, and then 0 and 4 and 5, and -2, -2, and -4. And always go back and check the values that you've entered, because one value wrong can really mess up your whole answer. Okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to second matrix, and I'm going to this time edit, and I'm going to edit B so that we can enter this one right here. So number 2, and that is a 3 by 1 matrix, so 3 rows and 1 column. And that's going to be -10 and 6 and -2. And again, be sure you really check those answers good. All right, now before I enter my inverse, I'm going to go to second quit to get back to my home screen. Very important that we do that. And now I'm going to go to second matrix, and now I want to use A, so I'm going to do that under the names menu, so A. And then inverse is this button right here that we've been using for our matrix, so inverse. And then second matrix, and now I want to use B, so number 2. And again, this right here, the variable matrix, tells me how my answers have come out. So it's given to me that x is going to be equal to 1, and y is going to be equal to 4, and z is going to be equal to -2. And you can plug those back in and make sure they work if you want to check your answer. All right, so I'm going to write these answers as a point, so that'll be 1 and 4 and -2. And so that gives me my answer to my inverse matrix system right there. Okay, let's take a look at 39. So 39, we're doing a very similar thing, just with a different set of values. Okay, so on 39, I've got x and 2y and 3z and -7 and -2x, 3y, -2z and 7. And then I've got 5x and 4y. I'm missing my z value on this one, no z value there, and that's going to give me 22. Okay, so let's set up our matrices here. So I've got a 1, an implied 1 in front of my x, and then a -2y, and a 3 with my z, and then -2x, oops, I don't need the x on there, just -2. I've got +3 and -2. And then I've got 5 and 4 and 0. No z on this one, so an implied value of 0 right there. Then I've got my x, y, z matrix, so my matrix with my variables. And then finally, over here I have my constant matrix, so that's going to be -7, +7, and 22. Okay, so again, I'm going to enter this one into A and this one into B, and then in my calculator I'm going to do A inverse B. So grab your calculator. So same thing. Let's clear that out. So second matrix, and I'm going to go over and edit A. And you can just type right on top of it. You don't have to clear it out. You can just type right on top of it. So it's still a 3 by 3 matrix. So 1 and -2 and 3. And -2, 3, and -2. And 5 and 4 and 0. And again, let's go back and check that we put in all those values correctly. One incorrect value can really mess up your answer. All right, and second matrix, and I'm going to edit B this time, so number 2, and that's a 3 by 1 matrix, so it's going to be -7 and +7 and 22. Okay, and quit to go back to your home screen, so second quit, and then I'm going to put in second matrix A, inverse, which is your matrix button again, right there, inverse, and then second matrix B. Okay, and so that gives me that x equals 2, and y equals 3, and z equals -1. And again, you can plug those answers back in to check them if you want to. So 2, 3, and -1. And again, I'm going to write my answers as a point like that. Okay, let's turn the page and take a look at number 40. So on number 40, we are graphing a rational function. And the first thing I'm going to do with this rational function is factor it to see if there's anything that I can reduce this fraction with. And let's see here, that's going to be -x² and +7x and -12. Okay, so before I factor, I'm going to take a negative out of this bottom piece right here. That's kind of bothering me. I don't like to factor with a negative up there on the front, so I'm going to take that negative out. That's going to leave me with x² minus 7x plus 12, and that gives me something I can factor a little bit more easily. All right, so on the top, that's going to be x, and my factors of 12 that will subtract to give me 1 is going to be 4 and 3. And I want this to be a positive one, so +4 and -3. And then on the bottom, again, keep that negative out front. That's also going to be x and x. And this time I need factors of 12 that will add to give me -7, so it's going to be -4 and -3. Okay, and so what I notice is that this one right here is going to cancel out. So really what I'm left with here is x plus 4 with a negative in front, and then x minus 4 down there on the bottom. Okay, so what that tells me about my graph, since I have something that canceled out, is that I do have a hole in my graph. So let's start with that. So I'm going to have a hole where this thing would be 0. So in this case, that's going to be where x is equal to 3. If x is equal to 3, it would make this thing that I canceled out right here 0. So I'm going to have an x value of 3. Now to find my y value, I'm going to plug into this over here. Okay, so for everything else, now I'm going to use this part of my function over here, this reduced function. So that's going to give me 3 plus 4 on the top. And on the bottom, that's going to give me negative, and 3 minus 4 on the bottom. So I'm going to put a little negative sign right there. All right, so on the top, that's going to give me 7. On the bottom, this is going to give me -1. Okay, so that negative is going to give me a positive, and so that's going to give me a 7 right there. Okay, so I'm going to have a hole at 3, 7. Okay, let's see. The other thing I want to find for this graph, let me go ahead and start my graph here, is my x-intercept and my asymptotes. Let's go ahead and find some intercepts first. So with my intercepts, I'm going to have an x-intercept when y is equal to 0, or in this case, it's going to be where this top piece is equal to 0. So I'm going to say where x plus 4 is equal to 0. And so that's going to be at x equals -4. So I'm going to have an x-intercept at -4, 0. Okay, remember that we're using this reduced function over here for everything now. Okay, and then I'm going to have a y-intercept when my x is equal to 0. And so when x is equal to 0 right here, that'll give me 0 plus 4 over -0 minus 4. So that's going to give me 4 over -4, so 4 over 4 gives me 1. So I've got a y-intercept at 0, 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some points on here. 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to have a hole right here. And then I'm going to have an x-intercept at -4, 0 right here, and a y-intercept at 0, 1 right there. Okay, while we're talking about intercepts, it's a good time to talk about my vertical asymptote. So I'm going to have a vertical asymptote when my denominator is equal to 0. So I'm going to say that negative x minus 4 is equal to 0. That's where my vertical asymptote is going to be, because we can't have a 0 in the denominator. Okay, so that negative's not really making that big of a difference. So x minus 4 equal to 0. So I'm going to have a vertical asymptote where x is equal to 4. Okay, so that's going to be right over here, 4. There's my vertical asymptote right there. It goes on and on forever. Okay, so I'm already kind of getting a picture of my graph right here. And it's going to look something kind of like this. Bounce off of that and come up here and cross through down there. Okay, the other thing I can find out is my horizontal asymptote. So I know when I have degrees that are the same right here, I'm going to have a horizontal asymptote. And that horizontal asymptote is going to be my lead coefficient here divided by my lead coefficient there. So in this case, my horizontal asymptote is going to be a y equals line, and that's going to be where y equals -1. All right, so y equals -1 is kind of down here. So this part of my graph needed to taper off and go towards that asymptote without crossing it or touching it. So that's kind of what's keeping this one going this direction. Okay, I don't have a lot of information about the other side of my graph. Usually they're going to be in opposite corners from each other, but let's check and make sure. I'm going to take that point right here where x is equal to 5, and I'm going to plug that in. So I'm going to say that 5 plus 4, and I've got -5 minus 4 on the bottom. So that's going to give me 9 on the top and -1 on the bottom. So that's going to give me a point at -9. So I'm going to have the point 5, -9. Or I could also have a point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yours is probably better than mine with some graph paper. And 5 over here. Ooh, kind of running into my writing there. And this one's going to go down here. So again, go towards your asymptotes without actually touching or crossing them. Down there. Okay, so that's what that one looks like. If I had had a situation where the top is going to be a degree that is less than the bottom, then I would want to have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. And if this one is greater than this one, then that's when I'm going to use synthetic division to find a slant asymptote.